Hi, welcome to the Pilosopo Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Jr., and today our guest is a sought-after lawyer, a radio personality. He has a radio show on Radio 5 92.3 News FM in Luzon, in the National Capital Region. He is a social media influencer, and most of the time, he is a Duterte supporter, although not all the time. My classmate back in high school in UP, Atty. Bruce Rivera.
Morning, Jiggy. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to all the listeners in your podcast. It's 7:30, so I think we're all up and up and going, ready for sleep.
Yes. Bruce, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
I
No
know
problem.
you were kind of under the weather. I saw your post earlier, and you were kind of under the weather.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for still doing this. Full disclosure,
it's okay.
Bruce. First of all, full disclosure, I am not a fan of the president, nor am
And it's
I
okay.
a nor am I a hater. Okay,
Yeah.
I actually am a centrist in this divide. My
Yeah.
brain was going to vote for somebody else, but my heart was going to vote for Duterte. And one sociologist once said, in matters of elections, people usually vote with a heart and not with a brain. So
Yeah.
I would have probably voted for him if I had to vote, but I didn't end up voting for him anyway because I did vote in the last elections. Anyway, Bruce,
Yeah.
we are down to the penultimate State of the Nation address just a few days ago. Um,
Yeah.
we are facing the greatest challenge of a generation. Do you
Yeah.
think the SONA matched the moment?
I think it's a matter of taste rather. Some people found it okay. Some people found it you know, good. Some people found it, uh, it served a purpose. Some people didn't even find it, um, it didn't find it, didn't like it. For me, I think it's mostly, I, I didn't like the opening because, of course, there was already an attack. But I do, I do actually know the story beforehand about Senator Drilon. But it was a personal, it was his personal feelings, which started the speech, which honestly I didn't like. However, the only thing that you can say about that is that if the president really is bent on saying something, he will say something. He, nobody can stop that. However, the rest of the speech was I think there were things that, because remember, we have to understand that before the sauna there's a pre-sauna, meaning what he was stating already therein in the actual sauna, there were already pre-saunas uh, that would actually give the specifics. So if people are asking for the meat, there's a pre-sauna that I think many people didn't even know that there is a pre-sauna happening usually days before the actual sauna. So we already knew about the pre-sauna contents beforehand. However, of course, during the actual sauna, the pre-sauna is not mentioned. So many people are asking about the beef, and many people were shocked that, oh, there's a pre-sauna. So what he was saying in the actual sauna, were there were snippets of it. The whole illustration, the the specifics were in the pre-sauna. So there it was, well, 2 years ago, I think there was a time when there was a change of leadership. GMA took over as speaker. I said it was underwhelming, and I got a lot of bashing from the Duterte supporters because I said it was underwhelming, and honestly, it was really underwhelming because he was really like angry at the time because there was a power struggle before his eyes. Now it's not underwhelming, but I felt that he was tired. Everyone
Yeah,
was tired.
yeah,
So I felt that basically he was being honest. For me, the honesty there is clear. It's also clear that he was tired because for for the months before, well, he was doing all these things, trying to be strong, but the body usually takes over. So he was he was kind of tired. And of course, but of course he's he's trying to be strong, and that's a typical Duterte I know. Trying to be strong in even in the midst of all these, he's trying to be strong. But that he's really beaten and tired. But of course, we just hope for extra strength from all of us. You know, that we
I,
can continue with this. Yeah.
you got a sense that he could barely see the script. You get a sense that
Yeah.
he wasn't really prepared,
No,
and then
no, no.
that he
It was a it was not a preparation problem. It's more before they were used to a certain font for him, but
yeah.
during the COVID, during the lockdown, I don't know if you notice it, but many of our eyesights have become more. We have
Deteriorated.
higher. Yes, I have that problem. He also has a problem with his eyesight that maybe because he's used to not being in the uh, sunlight as much. So he had a
Okay.
problem with the font. So that's the reason why he could not read. So that was the problem, and they were used to the font that where he can read, and when it was there, and there was no actual practice, because unlike before, they had to make a practice. Ngayon walang practice, so nagka ano siya and he had a hard time reading the prompter, and
It was just that I felt like, you know, this is the greatest challenge of a generation. We have not seen the likes of this ever.
yeah,
And then
I know.
I felt like this was the opportunity for the president to to prepare for something as I don't think any president has had any problem like this ever before, right?
No, right. He's a he's a class of his own, because this is because not because saying he's great or not. It's simply saying that he's a class of his own, because you will now have to judge him on on a different difficulty playing field. Like for example, in rhythmic gymnastics or in synchronized swimming, there is a level of difficulty. Uh, this his is different, Marawi siege, and then now the pandemic, and nobody's even prepared for it. No, I don't think. Well, at the time of the first pandemic, who was the president then? I think Emilio Aguinaldo was the president. We're not really sure. Well, we never we don't have statistics. We don't have records. We cannot even learn from history. So he's like dealing with it for the first time. So I I guess.
We were doing all of sorts of things. Congress got a little busy during the pandemic. We were able to pass the anti-terror bill, and the ABS-CBN franchise was denied. And I think we're going to move on to Chacha now. Don't you think that we were a little distracted, Bruce? Don't you think that in a crisis with a magnitude such
Well,
as this, all hands should be on deck, and all we should focus on is the pandemic? What do you have to say about that?
yeah, I was the first one was saying that why are we giving why are we giving this airtime or this burst of energy for a private bill? Remember that even before initially when we started our lockdown, there was no, well, the ABS-CBN issue came about May 4, when there's a closure, and we were busy with the preparations. However, when the closure came about, it became the priority, and that was the time that we were supposed to be, filing the Bayanianas 1 law, but we were not able to file that because we had to deal with the
Why?
ABS-CBN problem. Well, because of course, they were, they had so many people in Congress who were lobbying for it, and that's the reason why they had to continue. And they were also pressured by the Senate, because the Senate had their own hearing already, wherein they were saying that, oh, we'll will do our hearing for the franchise, so that if you finish with your hearing, we will just adapt our hearing, and then we can go directly to the voting and the giving of the franchise. So that was the and immediately after that, the cases started to spike. That's the reason when March 31, I think that was March 31 was the first time that we had so much. There was so much attention on the franchise that it became a problem. So I think that's now because of that problem after the ABS-CBN issue died down, because there was supposed to be hearings. Now they started with pandemic preparations that allowed us to do the lockdowns, do the SAP, the social amelioration fund, do all these things, and then go back to ABS-CBN in the midst of the pandemic, because they had to do that. So that's the story. And after that, of course, we had to come back again to the SONA, and of course the other laws that needs to be passed, because there's so many laws that needs to be passed in regard to dealing with the pandemic.
So so are you saying that they were underestimating the pandemic last March? So they had to do all of these things. They had to do. They had
It
to
was
bill on ABS-CBN.
I don't
Were
think
they
they're
underestimating?
underestimating. I don't think they're underestimating, because remember, the Philippines was one of the first countries who actually reacted to the pandemic. When in fact when the UN, United Nations, the World Health Organization said initially that it is a pandemic, the day after we already had number one, we already stopped the issuance of visas. We already stopped the travel from China to the Philippines. But the problem is you have OFW, so we cannot just say, stay there, because most of them wanted to go home, or some of them wanted to get out. So that was the dilemma. But at that time, there was no community transmission. There were only, I think, 4 cases, and I think one died, and the others were able to go back to China. However, we failed to realize the fact that from from January, February to until March, there was a slow entry of people from OFWs from Europe, from the US, from Japan, from all the other places, and they were not as assiduous in testing as we are now. So I think somebody went, or some people who were already infected went to the cracks, and that's the reason why on March 31 there was the first spike, I think, of 550 cases, and that was and initially and even before the March 31 spike, the government already knew March 13 they had the lockdown, but we had travel bans starting starting January 31, if I'm not mistaken, because January 20, I know 23, 20, 27, we already had our first travel restrictions, and then 30, I think, with regard to the travel bans.
I know, Bruce, that the Duterte administration ran on the slogan, "Change is coming," but the world that we were raging about no longer exists. Don't you feel that we should rage against COVID-19 100% of the time, because we are fumbling our way into this?
Um, Honestly, I think yes, we should actually be very pull all our baskets to COVID. But at the end of the day, we also have to change institutions for us to be able to properly address the problem, because clearly the reason, if you notice all the bills and all the things that he wanted to to be legislated, these are things that were glaring problems that were exposed during the pandemic, meaning the OFW problems. That's why he was really going for the Department of OFW. He had problems, and of course, for the longest time, he had problems with of course, with the ID, because remember, we are not like Korea, we are not like Taiwan, that we have this law that allows the government to actually supersede all the other, safeguards, and do away with our privacy laws to look into our database and look into our movements. South Korea has that law. Japan has that law. China can do face recognition. So they can actually monitor the citizens. We cannot do that. We have no laws for that. In fact, we have a unified ID system, and it's not yet implemented because it was supposed to be implemented for July 2020. So when we do contact tracing, it's very difficult because we cannot just trace people's movements by their credit card payments, which was done in Korea, South Korea. We cannot ask the people or OFW to have a chip a place on them, or a place in their cell phones, that they can monitor the movement of these people. So we have these things that actually were handicapped, which which made it more difficult for us to do contact tracing, number one, and difficult for us to actually project the movement of people. So that's one of those things that really needed to be determined. Moreover, though we have a list of the four Ps, the list of the four Ps were not in congruence, or were not really coordinated with the list of the LGUs, who are the constituents of the LGUs. So the LGUs had a different list. The four Ps under the DSWD had a different list. So that was the only time they realized, oh my God, we have two different lists. So that was the problem, and that was the reason why there's so many problems in the giving of the SAF.
Bruce, a lot of people I talk to when I interview them about the pandemic, they always hide in the nobody is succeeding in this curtain, when in fact there are success stories all over the world. How do you
Yeah.
assess the response of our government to the pandemic? How do you assess it from a global scale, from a global
So
perspective? I'm sorry.
if you look at the results, okay, if you the only thing that would for me is something that I can say, okay, we're good, is because our mortality rate is lower than the global average. The global average is 4%. Our global average is now two point something percent, which is okay, which is we are there. Of course, death per capita is we are also up there. We have 88. Now we have 88 or 130, whichever you would ask. They say it's higher than China, but who trusts China with regard to with, with regard to results, and with regard to statistics. So even if they say that we have this 88,000 compared to our population, it's still okay. Of course, we have to. Many people are trying to 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 compare us with countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Southeast Asian countries. At the end of the day, let us very aware. Be very aware that when you talk of countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Cambodia, and even Myanmar, these countries do not have a really large OFW population that is from all over the world, losing their jobs at the same time and coming back to the Philippines. So when they say, oh, they have zero deaths, or they have zero transmissions, well, Vietnam, when they closed their border. Nobody was coming back because nobody was there. There are a few Vietnamese OFWs who are outside working in the U.S., in Europe, in the U.S., in other places in the world. Most of the Vietnamese, when they went to the U.S., they were U.S. citizens and they not returned to the Philippines, but to Vietnam. But
So
in
you're
many of
saying
those
that it's
countries,
because of our OFW
I'm not saying
population?
that. I'm saying is because of our situation wherein we have what you call, we have things that other countries do not have, that we cannot control. For example, of course, we cannot say that, we cannot just close our borders to our Filipino OFWs who wants to return, and many of them lost their jobs. So
We can
even
quarantine
with
them.
the even with the quarantine, it well the one of the things that I really said that was a clear mistake was trying to let them arrive in Manila, uh, uh, on one place, NCR, and which is more difficult to, you know to to quarantine, to take care of them, to monitor them. So that would have been learned. That's the reason why, because there was no Department of OFW. There was sa Bisaya pa, Latagaw, it's really
All over the place.
unsynchronized, all over the place, unsynchronized handling of the problem of the OFW uh, return. So these are things that we have. And for me, I think with even with the transmission, the high infection rate, the high number now, 90% are mild cases. Only I think 0.04% are severe. So there are silver linings along the way. But of course, the only thing that we should be very careful of are the hospitalization and the hospital beds, because if we stretch them out too much, that will be the reason why the real sick ones will not be given a bed, and that will be the reason for the death rate rising.
Bruce, if you notice all over the world, those countries that are failing are those countries that are very divided, politically divided. A case in point, of
Correct,
course,
correct,
the United
correct.
States, right? They
United
have
States,
politicized the
Brazil,
use of masks, Brazil
Philippines.
and the Philippines. So, but eventually, if you have a pandemic which threatens everyone, not just any political party, uh, uh, the Prime Minister of New Zealand was able to galvanize her people, and in spite of the fact that they're actually a very divided nation when it comes to their politics, uh, New Zealand has very successfully stopped COVID-19. In fact, there's 0 cases in New Zealand now for the past 7, 8 days. I know it's unfair to compare these nations, but there are things that do work that we can
Yeah,
probably learn from them, right?
yes, and I think that's the reason why I was saying it to in my show this morning. I was saying, it's not too much of it is politicized, not just from the government side, but also from the opposition side, and too many people are also taking advantage of the polarization
Mhm.
by mulching controversies, by mulching by trying to create anger, unnecessary anger, unnecessary noise, which in reality is not really, should not really should not be something that we should be thinking about or trying to get angry about during this pandemic. Just that was why that was my position. I was actually saying, well, yes, we know that both the government and I think the opposition are not, they're saying that they're doing it for this and that, but actually both of them are polarizing in a way, and that's why I discourage rhetoric in that regard. It's like it's not a good it's not a good thing for us to be to be so divided during this pandemic.
Bruce, how do you see this spanning out? Do you think, because I'm looking for, our president getting angry like he was when he was angry about the drug problem, and when he was angry about that volcano erupting, that things will change soon and all that stuff. I was looking forward to that, him getting angry about his response to the coronavirus. How do you
He
see
was,
this spanning? How do you see this spanning out? Um, in the next few months, how do you see this spanning out?
of course you would have, the reason why cases are rising is because technically we have, well, Japan. does not have that problem. But we Filipinos, we're so sociable. We are not just sociable. We are so friendly. It's very difficult for us to really physically distance and even socially distance, because our natural our natural move is to
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 hug.
kiss, to hug, to it's we have no problem with space, sharing space with people, and it's very difficult for us to do that. So I think in the coming months we would be uh, the COVID becomes something real when somebody near you, somebody close to you, or even yourself
Nice. Yeah.
get affected by it. Some people may perhaps do not really feel or see the need to socially distance, or the seriousness of the matter, even if other people are calling it, do this, do that, be serious about it. But it does not become personal if it does not happen to them or somebody near them or close to them. So in the coming months, I think we would actually be learning the lessons that we will learn, and perhaps because I think the government can only do as much. People can only do as much. We are at a point wherein all of us have virtually nothing in our coffers. We don't have money anymore in our savings. We are just trying to get by every day. We are uncertain. We do not really know, even with all our titles and all our professional qualifications. This is a new world. This is a new uncertainty, and most of us are not really aware of it. And when we see that uncertainty now becoming real, that's the time we realize that this is not just something that we can laugh about. And I hope that in the coming days, we can actually be more circumvent and really be more into the trying to socially distance, to wear the mask, to be clean, to always wash our hands, to avoid crowded spaces, or if you cannot avoid it, be prepared, or avoid cramped spaces. These are things that are very difficult for us to do, being Filipinos, because we're used to the cramped spaces, we're used to the crowded spaces, we're used to hugging and kissing, and
We
being
live in
Filipinos.
squatters areas that have 10 people in
Yeah,
one room, right?
I know where privacy is not an issue for us. So, and even within friends, we share our food with our friends. We share almost everything with our friends. So I think maybe perhaps it's a little bit getting used to, but just as long as our death rate is not spiking, I am okay
Don't you get that
with
sense, Bruce, that the messaging wasn't unified? Don't you get that sense that, the coordination, even for just the messaging alone, just use of media?
the
I
the
felt
problem
like
is the problem is that media has always been a little bit on the anti side, right? So when the
no, but I
government,
think if the president can, I'm sure it's not a hard sell to tell them, hey, we've got a we've got an extinction level threat here.
but
We've got to use your spots.
honest
We've got to use your airtime to promote social distancing and wash
honestly
your hands.
honestly, Jiggy, I have to be honest with you. Of course, I was part of the communications, group chat to strategize how to bring the information, and there are so many information that was given, and actually there were people in media were asked to share it, but apparently it's not as broad as we wanted it to be, mainly because of course they also have their own specific media companies also have their own way of giving information, and perhaps these are some of the matters that need to be fully discussed or fully implemented were not really implemented that much. And more importantly, the local government units really also they also wanted their own their own way of doing
Approach?
things.
Really?
Yeah, yes. and that's the reason why there are not all cities even in metro, even in the NCR, not all cities were performing in the same way as the other mayors, and also in Visayas and Mindanao, in a way, so I
So,
think
pakita
that
ngayon ang
was
atong pag-archipelagic, right? You really
so
can
that
have a sense that we're very parochial still.
not parochial, but we should have been a federal. We should have been a federal. We should have had federalism to begin with, because because this is the problem of getting unity from in an archipelago. Different islands have different different cultures, different way. When President Duterte said, kitang mga Bisaya kay kuan kay ta kanang
Kay gulo.
unsa to yung
Kay gulo.
dili oy na siya gisulti na ilain is
Kay
katong
gulo.
um something I forgot the term, but ang kasi sa Luzon
Suburbio?
suburbio, or basta inana similar to that, because when he was saying, like, because in Luzon people would simply say, if there is something that they would be commanded, people would react, no, we don't want, but they would follow. That's what I noticed, because I come I was during the lockdown, I was in Las Piñas. They were reacting, they were angry, but they were socially distancing, they were locking down. But Bisaya, the Visayans, di ba, we usually do what you call this, yung silent soberbio matingari, silent disobedience, when you'll just smile and say, ano, good town. We're like that. Well, we were classmates in UP. We were we were the typical rebels. Like, for example, do that. Okay, we just smile, but good luck if we're going to do it. And I think that was what happened in Cebu, wherein initially they felt that the infections were low. Initially, there was, I think, zero. There was a zero infection for a good number of time, and people, put their guards down. And of course, I mean, we, the local government officials, also were a little bit complacent. They realized,
But
okay,
Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. This is my assessment. Isn't our president very good at communicating to the masses? And most of the time, I would like to believe nga murag mutuman man siguro sila kung hadloko ni Duterte, if he just says it in a really angry way. I didn't see
but
that, Magod. Like, I didn't see
the
so much
president,
rage.
the president has been angry all the time, and this is the fourth year, and I think because he
Run out
felt
of
that,
steam.
not run out of steam, but he felt that he can only do as much being angry, if you know what I mean. Of course he's angry, of course he's sorry, but for me, I think I feel this. He's a good speaker. He's a good
Communicator, yeah.
he's a good he delivers messages better in Bisaya than in Tagalog. So that's the problem.
Yeah, you
That's
can
the
sense
problem.
that during
That's
the
the
SONA,
problem.
right?
If he was to speak in Bisaya, if he was to speak in because I
Focus
remember
Mamaritas.
there was a speech that he was doing fully in Bisaya, and I realized, oh, this is the brilliance of PRD, when he speaks in Bisaya and talks to the people, because it's actually a real talk. But when he speaks in Tagalog,
Or
even
English.
if he adds English, the sincerity is not there. So I
It's
think
lost.
that's one of those, and the people in Manila, find it a little bit, find the Tagalog words that he would use and use the English words a little bit more,
But we're
crass.
already on his third year, fourth year, right? So I think they've already figured that out by
I
now.
don't think so. I don't think so. There's so many things that many people don't figure out, have not figured out, on how we use the vernacular. There are things that we can say that are normal for us. We don't really like get shocked, but when they ask what do they mean, or they would be very shocked, because
The
they're not used
nuances
to
of
those
our
words.
dialects, right?
Yes, and I think it's a little bit hard for for Tagalogs and even for other people speaking non-Bisaya or non-Bisaya languages to really understand the full grasp of the language or the vernacular. So yeah.
Bruce, I remember my grandpa when I was a kid. He would
Yeah.
talk to me about World War II,
Mm.
and he kept on repeating it over and over again like a broken record. His generation was defined by the war that he fought, and
My
I think
grandma as well.
this generation will be defined by this pandemic. We're defined by the greatness and the gravity of the challenge that we face. And I think this
Yes.
generation will be defined by the pandemic. And I think the Duterte legacy will be defined by his success or failure in his response to this pandemic. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely. And it's really funny because I remember if you look at the if you notice, yeah, he knows that nobody wants to be, nobody wants to run for president after 2022 when he if he fails, so it's really up to him now to continue the legacy, because for me personally I believe that there is no winning or failing in this war, in this fight. He can choose. He may do good. People will still die. There will be people who will die, and
I'm
these
sure,
are the
yeah.
deaths. These are the deaths that we cannot forget. There would be, of course, there will be mistakes, and of course there will be failures. But at the end of the day, nobody can totally blame a person for doing this and doing that, because nobody have had the experience or have had the formula to begin with. We cannot even compare ourselves to other countries. We're different. All of the other countries are different. So, in fact, even with other countries claiming success, there have been spikes now. They say, like for example, Vietnam has new cases. I think Japan has 300 new cases. Many countries, many states have said they have already zero transmissions, have new cases now. So clearly, this is not over yet. So I think for us, it's about the longevity of it. How we fight the fight. How we, you know, even if VP Len is saying that we cannot rely on a vaccine, but yes, at the end of the day, we have to ride. We have to ride the pandemic until the time that there is a vaccine for us to be aware that we can go back to the past, or to even a new normal, which is even a new normal, because now the new normal is a little bit weird. But we have I know when the vaccine is there, that's the only time we can go back to the you know the 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 good things in life, like concerts, traveling abroad, the
Going
things
to
that we
bars.
going to bars, getting ourselves like, uh, going to parties, like trying to make sikit-sikit to every other person there. We can't do that now. So I think maybe perhaps after the vaccine has been over and done with, and we are all vaccinated, or for what reason whatsoever, there's a herd immunity being developed. Well, that's the only time we can say, okay, we did it. But at this point in time, we cannot even say, we win or we lose. That's why I get angry at people who are saying we're winning or we're losing, because we're not yet there.
So you,
It's
you
too,
you feel that Duterte's legacy will be defined by how we come out of this pandemic.
yes.
And you mentioned that nobody will want to inherit a Philippines after his term ends. But I know
Yeah.
it's too early, Bruce. But I don't get a chance to talk to you that often, so I'm just gonna ask a little bit of a little politic conversation, election conversation. Who do you
Mm-hmm.
think? Uh, how do you think the 2022 presidential election will look like? Show to us a scenario that you feel is most likely.
Bongbong Marcos will run.
Okay.
Um, I don't really know if Sarah wants to run, because I think Sarah does not want to run in the first place, and PRD wants uh, now doesn't like her to be president, because she felt that her children are so young. So I think that's a valid reason, and I think the, it would be it would be clear, it would be possible that she's not running. But I think, there are people are floating Bongo's name. There are people floating Manny Pacquiao's name. There are people floating Panfilo Lacson's name, and I really don't know. It's as unclear as before. In all honesty, uh, if the president does good in this pandemic and in 2022, he still gets the support of the people. Because I'm because we are shocked that even with lower rates or lower approval rates for government departments, he has a a high approval rate. Weird, because some people find a way to cut him off from all the hullabaloo in government. So there's no direct accountability. So that is for me a little bit a little bit perplexing. However, if that's the case, and if people try to find a way, or if his supporters, really hardcore supporters, try to remove him from the equation of governance and treat him as a leader in his own right, and he has a high approval rating, his what the person he would suggest, or he would
Recommend,
endorse,
yeah. Endorse.
would be a winner, or would have a great lift. But knowing President Duterte, I don't think he would. I don't think he would endorse one person. Might as well endorse two. Make it a little bit more fight fight of the clash of the titans. If
Bruce, when I see other leaders of other parts of the world, namely Jacinda, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Trudeau,
Yeah,
and all that
yeah,
stuff, you can sense that they're young, they're vibrant, and they're passionate, and they still have all the physical and energy to run a nation. I think running a nation is a young man's game. I honestly think so. And
yes.
don't you get
Uh,
that sense that people want somebody more younger? I mean, why does it have to be older people who run for positions like president? Bruce, why
well,
don't you
that's
run for president, Juice? Or
what.
or why don't 40
No way.
somethings or early 50s people
No.
become presidents in this country? Why is that?
Well, because in the first place, this is we are voting our president by the people directly voting our president. Many of these prime ministers who are young are actually being voted not by the people directly, but by the representatives in their in their parliaments. So
Their congressmen, so to speak. Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
representatives.
yeah.
So the only reason why, even in the United States, when you electoral college voted directly by the people, they tend to choose older people, because we have this idea that the older the person, the more experience he has, and when in fact it's a hard job. And the President Duterte was one of those who was one of the oldest, or the oldest president to come into office. And I think perhaps with his with his with what he has done for the past 4 years, some people would now think that the older the better. But of course, it does not follow. So I think perhaps if we change the system, make it a little bit more a little bit more uh, welcoming of younger blood, um, we will still have that that trend that we either vote for the son of the former, or the daughter of the former, or even somebody who is part of the system, and part of the Manila crowd, which I believe should not be. So I hope that we start a trend now wherein we vote for outsiders. We vote for local government, governors, mayors of big cities. Look at their look at what they have done, because in reality, it's their experience as mayors that really would make them good presidents, because it's decision making at its finest when you decide for a city or for a province. But of course, hoping for a young, like a 40 something mayor president, well, it takes a lot of a lot of greatness for a person to get that kind of of razzmatazz, or even that kind of uh, following, because remember, there were young people who had promised, but as because they were young, there were so many flaws that we got out of them, and we learned later on that they turned out to be not so good as at all. So there were so many of them that in the past we actually, we were almost wanting to become president, but they never, they never materialized to be one. Maybe it's because of our system now in the Philippines, wherein you have to be, I don't know, you have to be that. It's a matter of canceling a person out, meaning who is the least dirty becomes president. I
No,
don't
but if
know.
you're
I
the
don't know.
older you are, the more engrossed you are, the more submerged you are into the whole political game, the more dirt you have, right? So the younger you are, the less dirt you have. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Barack Obama, who was just a first-time senator,
One.
became president, because he didn't have much dirt in him, so to speak.
Yeah, but remember, in the Philippines it's different, because well, there's some reasoning that uh, when you get old, you already want to give back. That's what they're saying. So sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So and Filipinos, very difficult to convince them of, like, for example, what is the population that is most numerous? It's 40 something like us.
Exactly.
So
One of
sometimes
our
if we get,
own.
yeah, if we get a leader and we can say, oh, he's 40 like myself, our initial reaction is that, hmm, we immediately doubt the person, because we know
We
ourselves.
can't do it.
We can, well, we can we can we be strong enough to stop temptations of corruption? Because in all honesty, if you have like millions of pesos in your in front of you, that can be a very difficult proposition to say no to. And of course, yeah, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of willpower to avoid or
Bruce,
to.
you're well aware of the power of social media. In fact, I think you honed that power very well. Don't you think that because of the information, Howie, because of social media, it is easier now to perhaps promote somebody from out of nowhere, like we talked about, somebody younger. Don't you think it's easier now to
No, not easier. Because remember, you may promote somebody, you may uplift someone, or you may say something good about someone, but um but there can also be people who will say wrong, or anything, just anything wrong, or any false information about that person, any any news that is scandalously offensive. And if you put it out there, make it appear to be correct, his political career is destroyed already, because it's there, and people want to believe. And that's the problem with social media now. There is an even playing field with regards to trying to be trying to promote someone, or getting to be popular because of just because of your own humility, your own brilliance, or your own thing. But when you become so huge that you become a threat to other people, that's the time that people try to put you down and destroy you, because you will now be threatening careers, threatening incomes, threatening positions, threatening even things that you do not know are that you do not know you are a threat. You are a threat to. You will be that person, and it's very easy to to make up stories about individuals and make it appear it's correct, and it sticks to you for the longest time. And for me, I think it's still it's still a mud pit or a snake pit out there. So I think social media just made it a little bit more nasty, honestly.
Nasty, all right.
Yes, nastier, because unlike before, when we have to just deal with mainstream media, there are things that mainstream media cannot say.
Yeah.
Meaning, well, if they can say something, they might slant something about you, slant it, but they cannot just
Totally
simply
against you,
like
right?
vocalize it. If
Yeah.
say, this person is like this, this person like that. Just call you an addict or call you something. Give you names. Um, in mainstream media, they won't say that because of course there is libel, of course there's things like that. But social media, they can do that. They can just make up stories and do less things like that just to destroy you. And would you have control over it? No, because of course that's social media. So I think unless social media is regulated, unless everything becomes an even playing field in our mainstream media, um, the people who have money will still be the one who will win.
Bruce, I know you're a diehard Duterte supporter most of the time. Most of the
Yeah,
time, not all the time. I'm
yeah,
sure you get your fair share of fans and haters, right? How do you
yeah.
deal with especially those haters? How do you deal with that?
I don't read.
Okay.
I don't remember when I put something out there. It's my position. It's my wall, my post.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in a public domain. Uh, Not because I want debate, but because I want other people to read it and maybe perhaps get my side of the story. I don't debate with people because I know that my position is my position and his position is his position. So difficult to do that. You don't debate with the people who just want to who at the end of the day will just call you names, call you feel make you feel bad about yourself. So when I put something out there, I don't read, especially if it gets a lot of likes and it gets a lot of leverage, a lot of um, attention. That's the first that's the time I automatically do not read the comments, because of course there will be comments there who are nasty. And the bad thing about social media is that we already have lost that accountability to be human. Meaning when you have a false name, when you have a picture of Winnie the Pooh,
Hide
uh,
and because of
you
our
can hide in
anonymity, right?
anonymity, right? So you can just say anything you want, and you have uh, you have no control over these people because you have a face, you have a name, so you cannot just stoop to their levels. So what you do is that you just don't give them the quality of your time or the attention that they all want to have. So that's me. That's why when I see bigger stars like people who are respected in society, and they answer bashers, it's
Mhm.
futile to do that. Futile because you can never win with a basher.
I remember before, Bruce, once we elected a president. I don't know if I'm romanticizing the past, but I think this is what I remember. Once we elect a president, there's like a honeymoon period, and then eventually, people rally behind that president, whether they voted for him or her, or it doesn't matter. Now it seems to me that it's politicking every single day. What is going on? And do you think we'll ever go back to a time when people will start supporting their president, whether they voted for him or not?
Well, this is the deal. It's For me, I think the only reason why when the president got elected, he never had a honeymoon period. If you notice, never. There was never a honeymoon period because I knew what happened thereafter. Maybe because when we elected an outsider, because he was considered an outsider. He does not really want to be in Manila. He's not part of the Manila scene. The politicians in Manila, they just revolve around one circle. If there's a party, you can get all the members of the Dilawans, the DDS, they're just one big group who are just dancing to different tunes every election. But here comes somebody who just brings in his team, who are who speak, who are Bisaya speaking, and people in Luzon are a little bit a little bit shocked, and a little bit perhaps they couldn't understand the working the dynamics, and that's the reason why there was really no the honeymoon period, and people getting behind the president. Maybe because I think it's the power of the powers that be that needs to control situations. And I think I'm not really, it's generalizing things, because of course if you are controlling this part of the world, and you get somebody who is trying to muddle with that control, you get defensive, and you get a little bit angry. So perhaps that's the reason why. But of course later on they'll realize that after 2022 and they're still there, and perhaps it was just a matter of changing stuff, and getting things that we need to get. They would feel that perhaps they were wrong, or perhaps they were, because I know that this administration is not perfect, and there are so many that needs to be called out. Kana sa inyo sa Cebu, daghan kay mo, oh Lord, sorry, but there are so many people in the administration that needs to be called out. But at the end of the day, if it's looking into the totality of things, and seeing, okay, what with what has been given to him, what did he do? And at this point, if you notice, many people who really were his original supporters, who knew him before he was president, are the same people who are still there. And that's because we have not seen anything that would make us see that there is something wrong with him, or with the change, or there's a change in him that we felt that we need to say, okay, this is not this is not the Mayor Duterte that we know. And if you notice, all of those who supported him before the elections, before he was number one in the ratings, are still there. But if you notice, those who got away, those who said we're not supporters anymore, were only there after he won, or maybe perhaps days before the elections. So if you notice, there are names that are lacking now, and they're not even saying anything now. It's because these are people who came to support him late, too late in the game. And those who supported him even before, even when he was mayor, even when he was he was still going around the country for federalism, the same supporters that they have. Even if these people are fighting each other, are not in talking terms with each other, they are still supporting the president. So that's
Bruce, the Barack Obama administration was sort of like the peak of globalism, and I think when Donald Trump got elected, he is, he's a more protectionist, a more nationalistic president. I mentioned the United States because I think there was a surge of globalism that is, engulfing the entire world. But with the advent of Donald Trump, I think there are more nationalistic fervors now that are emerging in some parts of the world, not just the United States. My question is, do you feel that in 2020, because we probably can both agree that we are still a very regionalistic country.
yeah.
Are we still, how regionalistic are we still as a nation? Will we ever think
The
as one and not
regionalism.
think in terms of regions?
No, the regionalism will never go away, because in the first place we're separated by islands. It's not
Okay.
very easy to immerse culturally when the waters would really would really be difficult for us to be moving, or to be actually conversing on a daily basis. So that's the reason why people in Luzon would have Luzon problems. People in Visayas would have Visayas problems. People in Mindanao would have Mindanao problems, and perhaps that will be how it will be. However, the good thing about Filipinos is that even if we're regionalistic, we are always, there are times in our lives that we are proud to be Filipinos, and and that's those times wherein we do very good. We do very well. I think perhaps the only thing that we should be, afraid about are, are how we deal with the world,
Yeah, exactly.
um, because of course this is the first time that we can, for me honestly, even if people presume that President Duterte is a dog of China, but in reality, he he knows that he's just well, I look at it as he's playing and he's trying to ang term sa Bisaya kanang bitong nagpasipsip nga trying to be to be a kiss ass, but everybody knows
Hidden
it's a fake
agenda.
kiss. Everybody knows it's a a fake kiss ass. If you know what I mean. Because remember, he's an Asian. He understands how the Chinese, a Chinese family, a Chinese person is like the pride, the act of being we honor them. They feel happy, but of course we the Filipinos, we can actually fake that. But at the same time, we also need to tell the U.S. our worth. Because for the longest time we have been taken advantage of, and we are not given our right respect, because the U.S. would always treat us as a former colony, the little brown boy, that they used to whip, and you see that. And I think now, being unpredictable, being pro China, and then later anti China, and then US, and then he would go to Russia. It only shows that we can do it. We can we can play with diplomacy. We can play with these individual leaders, because we already know our worth. We already know our situation in Southeast Asia. We know our position in the South China Sea, which is a very good position. We know our geopolitical vantage point, that both China, US, Russia, and all the other powers would want us on their side, because we can give them the direct, you know, either the direct advantage against China, or the direct, the a way to stop others from attacking China. So, I think many people don't get that idea, don't get that positioning.
Bruce, what is your message to everyone right now who are hunkered down, perhaps at home watching this video, and they're kind of uncertain about what's next? There's so many things going on at the same time.
I know.
What is your message to everyone watching this video?
I think the message is that every one of us are feeling the the pain now, more so than before. Before, we can see, we can actually, even with our group chats with, with Jojo, with Joy, Attorney Judge Joy, and Joey, and Jip, and Bayani. Before, it was just like, "Oh, okay, we will finish this after 15, 30 days." And now we already feel that it's something serious. We already feel that it's painful, and all of us do feel the pandemic, how it affects us, how the uncertainty of our futures, the uncertainty of the times. How do we return back to normal? How do we get back what we have lost? It's normal to be angry. It's normal to hate the government. It's normal. It's normal. And I really do understand if people are starting to hate Duque, starting to hate people like like the PNP chief Dibolsinas and stuff like that. And I think perhaps the people who are also being hated on, they also do understand that at some point we need a punching bag. We need somebody to really we need somebody to blame. But of course, we know who we can blame. But at the end of the day, we should have an open mind, and we should realize what's good for us, because what's good for us is actually just being, just, I'm not saying you follow everything, but what I'm saying is that, you become you protect your own, you protect yourself while protecting your family and protecting everyone in the community. And if you are not that, then that's the problem. Because I think that's the reason why now we have a problem. Now we have a problem with transmission, is because we only think of ourselves. It's Many of us don't really get angry unless it affects us. So, for example, if people are pro-business, they want the lockdowns to stop, and then because of their business, and later on they think about it, and now when it's trying to meddle with our with the health of many individuals, so we have our own agendas, every one of us. But I think we should always be aware that, you know um, we have to take a middle ground. We have to compromise. We have to make sacrifices, because it's not just us making sacrifices. Of course, others will sacrifice more, and we have to be careful. We have to also accept that. But all of us are sacrificing, and I think the only way for us to feel united as a people look as is to see in each other's misery and realize that we're all the same. This is all of us, regardless of our titles, of our popularity, of our faces, of our, what we look like, the language our lingua franca, everything. It doesn't really matter at this point in time. Even if you are the mayor of Cebu City, or the poorest man of Cebu City, you have the same problem. We are all equal. So I think that equality would only bring us, more should bring us to look into ourselves as equals and realize that each and every one of us has an effect on this community. And I hope that in the future we really see that, because I haven't seen that in the past months, and I have lately seen that when people are now trying to understand that we can only rely on ourselves. And if we rely on the government, good luck. It will not work, because of course the government can only do too much. We have to do it ourselves. So we have to help, and we have to be one. And of course, it's okay to complain, but when you complain, and it's not a complaint, but just a bit, just being bitchy, does not help. It only creates anger on those people who are actually doing the sacrifices. Because when you say, "Oh, it's like that," but all of us are sacrificing. So what's your problem? So it only aggravates the anger. And I think it's true that because of course VP Lenny was saying, what ang Pilipino hindi pasaway. It's not saying that when President Duterte is getting angry at trying to scold the Filipinos, it's not actually saying the Filipinos are pasaway. It's simply a father telling his children that, seryoso naman tayo kasi mahirap na. Wala na tayong pera, kailangan natin gawin to. So that's it.
Not too long ago, Bruce, 4 years ago, we just had one of the most divisive elections in recent memory. In fact, the country continued to be divisive a few months after. Eventually, I think somehow
Even
it
until
stabilized.
now. Yeah, it's stabilized, but still
It stabilized a little bit. He became very popular at a certain point, or at least the fissures or the cracks have healed, if not hidden.
Yeah.
The nation got behind him somehow. But now we have a pandemic, a crisis that no one's ever seen before, and the cracks, the fissures are beginning to show.
Yeah.
At the time when we all need to be united as a people. Sure, we have our squabbles about a great many things, but what divides us is nothing compared to what unites us.
Correct.
We all can agree that we all need to survive. We need our economy to be revived, and hopefully life to go back to where it once was just 6 months ago, Bruce. And I hope to see you in a cafe or a bar or in
Hopefully.
that coffee shop when our batch got a little reunion one of these days.
Oh
I
yeah,
hope to do that, Bruce.
yeah. One of the things that I really found to be very important are the people who know you when you were young, when you were no, when I was a nobody, are the people who would still know me, and the people I would miss the most. I miss the most during this pandemic because, these are the people who know who I am, and my 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 weaknesses and stuff like that. And the good thing about this pandemic is it made me realize that you're only as good as your friends and the people you love. So I hope
These
that
people
that
remind
becomes a
us who
message.
we really are, right, Bruce?
Yeah, and
Bruce,
I
I
think,
know that you're all over the place. Can you please tell us where they can catch you on social media, on television, on radio, or maybe you have an
well, of
article
course.
that's on print? Go ahead, tell everybody.
Okay, I'm in Waljak. That's in Radio 5 92.3 News FM. That's from 8 to 10 in the morning, of course. Um, I co-host a PNP show on also uh, a PNP a PNP show called Rectang Connect Action Agad once a week in UNTV. I have other things brewing up, but of course we have to see what happens, because of course the pandemic and all the things are killing the schedules and the plans and everything like that. So I think perhaps that with the resurgence of many of stations, new stations, or perhaps uplifted stations like PTV4 and IBC 13 and stuff, there will be new programs coming. So just wait.
We will look for you, Bruce. Thank you so much. Attorney
Thank you,
Bruce
Jiggy.
Rivera, thank you so much. You were amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Good
one more
evening. Good
question before you go. When I heard that you promised that you were going to relocate to Cebu, is that actually happening, or you were just saying it?
I I actually plan to do it in July, end of July, but I can't move. So I'm trying to, and then this one there. Well, let me just be clear about it. I I I actually, if there was no offer for this thing, and it will not it will not become a reality, I will relocate by September,
Okay.
or after I have an opportunity to really when everything is over, when I can travel without any problems, then surely I'll be back in Cebu.
Okay, I'll catch you soon, Bruce. Thank you so much.
Bye
You stay
bye.
safe, okay?
Stay safe. Thank you.
There you have it, Attorney Bruce Rivera, our episode of the Pilosopo Podcast, of course. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jiggy Jr., and you stay safe now, okay?